All right, we're going to go ahead and kick this city council meeting off. It's July 15th, 2025. We are down at the mill. And for the city council meeting, we are also recording this live and will be later published on our YouTube channel. So with that, I would call the meeting to order and ask all to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Yep. Councilmember Donahue,
Present.
Councilmember Daughtry,
Present.
Councilmember Jorstad, Councilmember Peters Hagen,
Present.
Councilmember Shipman,
Present.
Councilmember Ewing,
Present.
and Councilmember Hill.
Here.
Great. Do we have anything on Councilmember Jorstad?
Yes, she reached out. She let us know she's on vacation, will not be attending tonight.
Perfect. Love everything about it. Okay, can we get a motion then to excuse Councilmember Jorstad?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, let's get an approval of the agenda, Council President.
All right. So everybody had a chance to look over the agenda. Any corrections or additions? Okay, hearing none. Could I please get a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. You have an agenda.
Great, thanks, President. And I would, we have a very robust agenda tonight, lots on it. Just so that we are not into the wee hours of the morning, I would ask all comments to be laser focused, get to the point, and let's get on to the next subject. So with that, guest business, Anya.
Good evening, council. Caitlin, can you let Mr. Roman into the room? Okay. Okay, and then you should be good to share your screen. And while they do that, I'll give a brief introduction. This is Shannon and Kathy from Compensation Connections. They are here to follow up with the council from the last presentation they did a few weeks ago on the city's salary survey that we are trying to kick off. And we've come up with the follow-up information and direction needed to move forward on this project. And with that, I'll let Shannon take it away.
Thanks, Anya. Good evening, council. Thank you for making time for us today. We appreciate that. All right. So the request that we have for you to consider today is, of course, as Anya said, reviewing the additional information that you all requested from the last meeting that we attended, and then hopefully approve a set of cities to include in the market study, the compensation market study that we are preparing to perform. And just as a brief reminder, the potential cities that we are discussing for utilization in the study are listed here on the screen. Hoping everyone can see that. Please let me know if you cannot.
We can see it.
Thank you. All right. So diving into this a little bit, last time we were attended, we shared a chart that included some key information about the different cities, and some questions came up about, well, you know, what factors are typically considered and why are they considered, and that in that vein. And we mentioned, well, there's this organization, PERC is the acronym, so the Washington Public Employment Relations Commission, that helps to govern, you know, or suggests factors that public employers consider when they look at other organizations to include in the market study. And so PERC, as they advise, they typically consider the factors that are listed on the screen. So location, population size, assessed value, any distinctive characteristics that the city may have, and other factors, related to like talent competition, recruitment, retention, and then use in past market studies. One question that came up last time was, about assessed valuation, and just to clarify that is total value of all real estate located within the city limits, and that just helps to function as an economic indicator for the city. So that's where some of those factors came from when we talked about PERC last time. And then what we're proposing, which aligns with what PERC said, and also, thinking about what you all had talked about last time, is what factors might Lake Stevens consider. So we're looking at cities within 50 miles of Lake Stevens, kind of thinking of them as talent competitors, the overall population size, assessed value, number of employees, budget, sales tax, different services and features, maybe either offered through the city or as part of living in the city, and then use in past market studies. So we're still aligning in general with, what PERC suggests or recommends as factors. So something else that came up when we met a couple of weeks ago was this question about, well, do cities with larger budgets or more sales tax or assessed value or what have you, do they pay more? And so we wanted to explore whether there's a relationship between any of the proposed factors and pay. So we just did a very small test. We selected 4 jobs. It's just that sample of jobs that are listed there on the screen. And Kathy actually researched pay at each of the potential cities for those 4 jobs. And then these are 4 jobs that obviously Lake Stevens has as well. And what we wanted to do was just test, like, okay, is there a relationship, or what is the relationship between the factors that are proposed for consideration and what these cities are paying for these 4 jobs? And so we have a little bit of information to share with you related to that, which we hope will be insightful. And Kathy, you just tell me when to advance.
Sure. So let me give you a little orientation of what we're looking at here at this first chart. And you'll see the following charts look very similar. So we're looking at some very similar type of information. So this first one, we went out and pulled total expenditures for each city. So that is what the orange bars represent. So we can see Mill Creek with our lowest budget size and Everett with our highest budget size. And then the blue line represents those 4 jobs that we went out and pulled the data for from each of those cities. So, and we took an average of those 4 jobs. So if we look at Mill Creek, at the lowest budget size, those 4 jobs actually came in a little higher than we might expect if we saw a complete correlation between budget size and those jobs, how those jobs pay. And then we see Mukilteo kind of takes a dip, and then those next several cities are very similarly paid for those 4 jobs. Edmonds takes a little bit of a dip up. And then we come and kind of even out again with the next several cities. So Bothell, Marysville, a little bit of a dip up, and then Everett comes down a little bit. So it's a little bit of a story, but not a lot of a story. So we see some correlation, but not a ton of correlation between this budget size and those how those jobs pay within each city. Does that make sense to y'all?
Sorry, let me go back.
That's all right. Just want to make sure I explain the chart. Okay. Next chart's similar. And that we're looking at, instead of total budget size, we're taking that assessed value per capita. So that's dividing the assessed value by the population size. So again, the green bars represent the assessed value. And then the blue chart is those 4 jobs. Again, some dips here and there, fairly, steady pay for those 4 jobs across all the cities. A little bit of a dip down for Mukilteo, and then Edmonds climbs back up. And Edmonds has the highest assessed value per capita. And then this next chart, again, looking at those 4 positions. So this is sales tax. So similar type of chart. Our sales tax is the blue. Our sales tax is the blue bars. We have Mukilteo to Everett. And again, just some dips at Mukilteo. Again, lower. Edmonds higher. Steady in the middle there. Mount Vernon dips a little low. And then again, steady from Bothell to Everett. So very close pay between all of those cities for the most part, except for our dips. And then our last chart is a little bit different, and that we have total expenditures. And then instead of those 4 positions, the average of those 4 positions, we're looking at salary and wages as a percentage of total expenditure. So these percentage, that's the salary and wages in their budgets. So we can see, again, we have Mill Creek to Everett. Mill Creek is our lowest budget. Everett is our highest. Again, some dips, a little more dips you'll see. So 28, we have Mukilteo up, but its salary and wages are about 35% of their budget. Kenmore is on the low side at 13%. And then, for the most part, we have somewhere around 20 to 30% here in the middle. And then again, some dips at Marysville. Again, not a huge correlation as far as kind of the percentage of budget spent on payroll.
And once again, Lake Stevens is somewhere near the middle of all of these. Yeah.
All of them, yes.
Yeah.
For sure. So we did some scouring of some websites to kind of gather some information about what the cities offer, what they might have. So some of this we didn't confirm this with the city, so some may be incomplete. We did the best we could as far as gathering the information. So just across the top, what we're seeing is, so the cities obviously, and then whether they offer police or fire themselves, and what type of, whether they offer water utility, if they have a treatment plant. A few had solid waste under them as well. And then the darker blue section is, if they had managed some shoreline, it could be lakes, rivers, marine shoreline, and all of them have some sort of shoreline that they're managing or some sort of body of water. If they had a bigger shopping mall, I didn't count shopping centers, but a bigger shopping mall. And then some of these on the very far right, so the ferry terminal, transit center, doesn't necessarily mean the city is managing those, but it could have add a complexity to the city. So we included those. Some have bus services. Everett offers a bus service. Some have an airport or cemetery. So those were included in that column there. Just again, trying to figure out if there's any additional things that add complexity to the city management.
Great. Before we move on I'll just pause and see if anyone has any questions about any of the information that Kathy just covered.
I'm seeing none. You're doing great.
Okay. So then kind of our recommendation based on this additional research and information is to utilize the cities as presented for the market study. And so kind of just recapping back, what we asked today is to, review all the additional information, which we just did. And then request approval of the cities to include in the market study. Anya, is there anything you would like to add?
Thank you for all of that information, and I love all of the visuals. Thank you. I would just add that the goal of identifying the cities is to find the 50% above and below with using all of those factors. And as you could see, Lake Stevens was around the middle of all of those factors. And so that's why we're coming to the same conclusion of using the similar cities that we did in the last survey.
Do other cities do this the same way?
Yes. The PERC test is very common, mostly because the PERC test is used for interest arbitration groups, which are police and fire. And in order to bring like a similar factor forward to all your other staff, it's like a fairness component and make sure you're being consistent all the way across, because the arbitrators, if it does go to PERC, will force you to use these factors. And so it is very common practice in all organizations to use these similar factors.
Shannon, my question is, how do you account for growth in wages and benefits relative to increase in revenue for the city? Because to me, when our revenue is going up 1.5% and our wages and benefits are going up 8 to 10% at some point, we run into a problem. And so I'd love to see that included in this survey or whatever you're doing, because it's great to see where people are on that. But at some point you run out of money at that. You just can't keep spending 3 times as much, your growth on wages and benefits.
Right. Thinking about sustainability of, yeah, absolutely. We can be sure to talk about that, research that and talk about that when we come back to talk about implementation recommendations.
Could we get a copy of this presentation you gave us?
Yes.
This slide deck?
Mhm.
Thank you.
I know we don't all have the same positions in our cities, and you picked common ones to compare. It would be interesting to see, it looks like we're pretty average on the percentage of our budget that goes to employees. Do we have more or less when you compare the size of our city? So in other words, you were saying we had in the last slideshow, you were saying that we have positions that other cities don't, and vice versa. So as we're looking at payroll, I'm wondering, can positions be combined, or do we have an excess number of employees? Are we short in employees? I'm kind of with Councilmember Ewing, and my concern is with our budget expenditures going up and our revenue not keeping up, at what point are we going to be overextended?
I think that will come into play when we update the council in September on our staffing plan and projections, and we talk about the positions that are shared right now and what the department needs are and what work is not getting done that we need to get done. And in general, I think it's just a budgeting, concern and balancing the budget, whether staff versus equipment or projects are, more of a priority to the council.
Good stuff. Anything else? All right, great.
Is everybody okay with what we've presented today and okay with us moving forward then with the salary survey on break as recommended?
With the requested information.
When we bring it back?
Yeah, when you bring it back, you'd have the requested information about the revenues versus wages and benefits just over, last several years, and kind of see where that's going.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, Sonia. Thanks,
Thank
Shannon.
you.
and Kathy.
Thank you very much.
Thank
All
you.
right, let's go to citizens' comments, and we'll check first online for anybody online who wishes to do citizens' comments.
Anyone online that would like to address council, please raise your digital hand and I'll bring you in. don't see anyone.
Okay, and then the only green sheet I have is with Ray. Ray, if you want to take the podium, that'd be great.
Hi, I'm Ray Welp. I think most of you know who I am. I live up on 217th or 117th rather. I really thought I was done with this. And I'm hoping I am. And maybe it's addressed later in some of the things on the agenda. But at 3:23 today, I got this report from was forwarded from P&H Consulting on the data that they gathered. And I, to make it quick, I had a whole bunch of points that I was going to talk about, but I'll just say that there's what I see as some discrepancies on the information that I gathered. And one of the things that kind of alarms me a little bit is the last paragraph or the last couple paragraphs, the information that they have there. And then the last point with 5 subtitles behind it. If a similar application were implemented, the following design elements need to be considered. And it goes through those, and nowhere on that do I see a recommendation of for or against this project. And I want to believe what was said last time I was here, that the one way is out of the question. And just speaking for the citizens and the information that I gathered, we need sidewalks. And I think that's what everybody wants. And I would hope that there's a way that you can find a way to do that. So, and I guess I'll let that go at that, see what's said later on it. And it may come up again, but I'll be a little more organized then. So that's it for today.
Right, Ray. Thank you very much. Let's move forward then to council business.
All right, I will go ahead and kick things off and just say, nothing to report other than I attended Aquafest. Finally have kids that are old enough to enjoy some of the more exciting rides. And so my family and I were able to get down over the weekend. I just want to say congratulations to everyone involved. I thought it was a great event. We had a great time. So, Councilmember Daughtry.
I attended Aquafest also. It was a great time. Pretty busy. The carnival brought in a lot of people, had some good food, good entertainment. It was a lot of fun.
Councilmember Peters Hagan.
I just want to congratulate the Aquafest committee for actually pulling this off. It's there was a lot of people downtown. It's good to see. The weather was perfect for it. Maybe a little tad too warm for some folks, but congratulations to the Aquafest committee. So,
Councilmember Shipman.
Okay, I guess I'm going to echo everybody else. Aquafest was amazing this year. And I also want to thank everyone involved in making this happen. I know it's a collective group, and not to single anyone out, but Councilmember Daughtry, a lot of people don't know how many days and hours you spend help putting this together. And I want to give you acknowledgement for that. I've worked side by side with you before, and I know it takes a huge collective team, and you're one of the leaders on that team. So I want to thank you. And then I attended the Senior Center board meeting yesterday. That's always a joy. And they are pretty excited. I guess they met with the mayor and the YMCA, and they're really excited for the things coming to the Cavallero Park.
Councilmember Ewing.
Yeah, so I think Councilmember Daughtry had 21,000 steps in at 2:00 when I saw him on Friday. And he was just only about halfway through the day. So I was like 10 miles of walking. But awesome job with Aquas. Also, the 4th of July event was outstanding. A lot of great businesses and people out there for that. So the carnival, I got a lot of good feedback about the carnival. One family I ran into at 5:00 had already been on 100 rides between their family of 4. So they hit it right at 12 and they were getting their $35 worth. So thank you to everyone that was involved with that. Great job.
Councilmember Hill.
I have nothing.
All right. Thank you.
Great. I'll echo everyone's comments about Aquafest and let's move forward then. Let's go to City Department report. Eric.
All right. Good evening, council and mayor and legal counsel. Good to see you. My name is Eric Mangold. I'm going to get this presentation ready for you. I'm the capital projects manager for the city. Let me get this shared real quick. All right. All right, great. So this is going to be the 2025 mid-year capital projects update. We're now the second half of the year, and so thought it'd be good to give you guys an update on where we are at, and where we plan on going from here. Just to give you a recap of our engineering team, we have our city engineer, who's Kim Klinkers, myself, Eric Mangold, the capital projects manager. We have Ben Robinaji, who is our senior civil engineer. Whitney Oyoleto is our civil engineer, and then our two inspectors, Phil and Tanner. So this is going to be something right up Ray's alley. The first thing we wanted to talk about was the 116th, 117th Avenue pedestrian pilot project. So we have the summary. As we all know, we've been through this quite a bit. We did the pilot study to evaluate whether we can get a better pedestrian access and lower traffic volumes. We started the studies in the beginning of the year to try to get as built, essentially how things are currently. We ran that May 2025, for those 4 weeks, we ran the pilot project. And so we spent June and into just this beginning of July getting the data compiled and analyzed. So we do have the final project implementation memorandum that was prepared by PH Consulting that was just sent to us today, actually, and we got it up on the website. That will be as part of the project update on the capital projects website that's out there. So that was also emailed out to everybody that had signed up as to be notified by this. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen this. The memorandum basically, established that we had 5 metrics that we were trying to evaluate. Reducing the 85th percentile speeds, reducing the total vehicle volumes, encouraging non-motorized use of the pathways, getting more pedestrians out there, reducing vehicle queues, and also trying to improve the overall 117th, 116th sentiment and the community around there. So we found that 2 of those metrics had succeeded. We did see a pretty significant increase in pedestrian non-motorized use. And we did see a little bit of traffic calming as far as speeds go. They were reduced by about 1 to 3 miles per hour. However, the vehicle volumes and resident sentiment were definitely fail on those. The volumes went up. And then the vehicle queue length was kind of a mixed bag. Some of them went up by 1 car length, but the rest of them kind of stayed the same. So the conclusion of this, as we've said multiple times now, is that the one way is not the right way. So we're not going to do that. We have decided not to do the one way. The studies have just shown that that's not going to be work. So here is a slide with some of those metrics as we talked about. The vehicle speeds, you can see they went down a little bit. The big thing is pedestrian counts went up, so people definitely were walking out there. So there is definitely a need out there, and we're going to go forward and attack that. So what's next is the 117th Avenue Northeast sidewalk improvement. So due to the one-way coupling not working, we're going to move forward now on the design of a sidewalk project for 117th only. This is, as you can see in the graphic there, it'll be something to the effect of 2 10-foot lanes, a 4-foot vegetated buffer with potential drainage, and then an 8-foot bike lane, sidewalk, multi-use path, something that design is kind of forthcoming still. We are currently scoping with a consultant to get the design contract underway to kind of figure out exactly what they want us to pursue and what we want them to pursue. And so we are finalizing that with the consultant, and we hope to have something ready soon. So that we'll prepare a design for this new sidewalk project through the end of this year and into early February. This is going to, of course, require right-of-way acquisition, permitting, utility coordinations, making sure we've got all the utilities taken care of that we need to, and preliminary stormwater design, and then a final implementation for what our stormwater design will look for on 117th. Anticipating that everything goes well throughout all this stuff, we are hoping to be able to build by the summer of 2026. So we will have a sidewalk project out there and no one-way streets. And hopefully by the end of next year, everyone will be able to enjoy that.
Eric, the picture you have up there depicts that we're looking north, right? So it's going to be the bike lane, et cetera, is going to be on the west side.
I believe that's the case. I am not 100% sure. I think that's what's been
That would hook up past 26 to the sidewalks that are already up there in that area.
Yes, I believe that's what they're intending to accomplish.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. And I think that's it for my 170. Yeah, that's not it for the 117. So if anyone's got any more questions, I know we've talked about this quite a bit, but if anybody has questions, happy to help.
Yeah, Eric,
Yeah.
just for the sake of anybody who might be listening or watching this later, can you again mention why we're only looking at the one street for the sidewalk improvement right now and not 116th as well?
Yeah, so 117th was originally the transportation benefit program project that was identified. 116th was brought into with the couplet design as a way to try to help spread the funding and maximize what we could do. But originally 117th was the identified project through all of the scoping. And so that's why we're going to 117th and continuing with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the next project that we're working on, 131st Avenue infrastructure improvements. This will be a sewer project that we are finalizing. We are in the final stages of design, right-of-way, and permitting. And we hope to go out to add in the next week or two for bidding, which would put us into construction probably around August, pending everything goes well. And I think that this is something that the council members can look forward to having when you come back from recess, is a contract ready to be awarded for this. This will be the multi-use path that goes along 131st Avenue Northeast, and sewer improvements that will tie into the Centennial Short Plat development that had just happened last year. They have brought sewer partially up 131st, and we will tie into that and go all the way up to Hartford Road to help improve the sewer infrastructure along the road. But with that comes the multi-use path, which does tie into the Centennial Trail, and will effectively be able to bring people as a bit of a bypass off of the Centennial Trail down into Lake Stevens and through Main Street and then back to the Centennial Trail, which will be very exciting. So we hope to have that out to advertisement in the next week or two, and then we'll see that into construction in August, late August probably. Next project is the 20th and Main Street roundabout. This will be a continuation essentially of the Main Street project that we've been working to finalize now. We are currently working to design and construct the roundabout and put in pedestrian improvements along 20th Street and Main Street with illumination and landscaping. We are currently in the design phase. We are at a 60% design. We have just received that and have sent that out for coordination to all the relevant stakeholders to get input, to make sure that everything is still following along the lines of what everyone needs. And we are also looking to begin the NEPA process with WSDOT, which is the Environmental Protection Act on a national level. So that's a pretty extensive process, but getting started on that will be really important for us. Part of that is the right-of-way acquisition. We need to make sure we have that dialed in before we get NEPA finalized. So right now they are coordinating the right-of-way, how that works. That's all in a little bit of a flux, but we are talking back and forth with all the stakeholders involved and making sure that that gets dialed in. This is going to be designed throughout the year. We are hoping to be able to get to construction by late 2026. Maybe early 2027, pending WSDOT coordination. As a reminder, this is a federal project. It has a $2.5 million federal earmark. And as we've learned, federal projects don't go quickly. And so we have kind of found some ways to be efficient, but we are also at the mercy of WashDOT and a lot of this stuff. And so we'll work as hard as we can to get this thing through as fast as possible, and hopefully we'll be able to hit that construction date. Does anyone have any questions on Main Street?
Eric, do you see that being more than a $2.5 million project?
What's that?
Do you see that being more than a $2.5 million project?
I haven't had a chance to look at the overall preliminary cost estimates. I would not really like to make a guess at that right now.
Okay.
I think it's probably close, but there are still some factors that are going to play into that. But I think we should be fairly close to being able to hit that.
Okay.
Could you remind me on the revised contract that we did with the storm drainage? Is there a recovery contract on that property on I guess it'd be the northwest corner if and when it develops for compensation? I mean, originally we had 3 parties for the storm drainage. Now we got 2, the city and the fire district.
Yeah.
Is there any way to recoup any of that with the benefiting property getting frontage improvements on their property?
I'm not really sure at that point right now. I haven't been involved in the negotiations of that.
I think I can speak to that. So right now, it looks like the plan is to develop the regional stormwater facility with just the 2 parties, which would be Snow-West Regional Fire and the city as part of the roundabout project. And so the portion for the development of that stormwater facility is proportionate to the impacts based on the individual projects. And so it won't account for the potential development at the North Cove facility. They'll be managing stormwater when that comes in for redevelopment. And I think we have a new potential developer there who's done a pre-application with the city.
So they'll need to provide their own storm retention then?
They will.
Okay, okay. All right. What about the frontage improvements?
For the North Cove.
Is that what it's called?
Whatever development goes there up on the hill by the coffee stand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's something that the city is still looking at with this roundabout project and this potential developer. I think it's something that is still in
Okay.
discussion.
Be great if we could, I mean, it's only benefiting them, so. No
Yeah,
free rides, right?
We do have a fee in lieu process, or there is potential of dedication, having them dedicate extra property, or there's quite a few mechanisms that we have to be able to make sure that this is an equitable design.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so the next project that we have on the list is at 91st Southeast Phase 2. So as you all remember, the 91st Avenue Phase 1 went through, and it's been used amazingly. It's gone off really well. So what our plan is to connect from 12th Street Southeast all the way down to 20th Street Southeast, basically creating a full pedestrian corridor along 91st. This will come with also another vegetative buffer as some ADA compliance, traffic calming, and to tie into the nearby schools there. This will also be in alignment with the active transportation design guidelines from WashDOT. And so we may have a little bit more wider path than the 91st original Phase 1. So that'll be even better for the children. We are currently in the design phase. We are anticipating a WashDOT notice of award for the $800,000 Safe Routes to School grant. As soon as we have that award letter, we should have get started with the consultant selection. So this is because it is also with WashDOT, they are involved in our consultant selection. So we'll get started on that to start design for the project. This is anticipated to get through design through this year and into early next year, with the construction hopefully pending everything going smoothly in summer of 2026. So that's a really exciting project that's coming up as well.
But that means that project will be done by the time school starts in 26, correct?
Hopefully we learned from our last time, so that'll definitely be the goal, to make sure that we get through there, or adequately notify it. And if we have to go later, and then we'll make sure it's taken care of. The next project we have is our annual citywide striping and thermoplastic project. This is something that Ben and Kim both brought to council on the 1st of July this year. And so this is really kind of just a high level, just a reminder that's what they're going through. This is going to be replacing and installing the thermoplastic and lawn line striping at the high priority locations, at school zones, parks, high volume roadways, and certain service request locations. We're going to begin this. This has been lumped in with our pavement preservation project. And so this is beginning this next month in August, and they will have their striping done before school starts. This also will be part of the park striping project that we're doing. And the park striping is, we have talked with the contractor now at our pre-con meeting to make sure that they are going to prioritize night striping for the parks to make sure that we are not impacting any kind of usage of the parks during the regular business hours. So that ties nicely into our 2025 pavement preservation. This will be our annual grind and overlay with ADA upgrades as well. We were also able to throw another transportation benefit project into this. This was TBP 14, which was on 99th and Chapel Hill. We are starting, like I said before, we're starting on August in August, and this will continue through just before the school year begins in September. And we are currently working on getting local notifications to all the homeowners that will be affected, because this is, as you'll see in the next slide, this is along Vernon Road that's just after the Callow Road roundabout, the fish roundabout. It'll go just after there to Mitchell Road, which is about a mile of grind and overlay. So it's a pretty extensive paving job that we'll be doing. And then the ADA improvements at 99th and Chapel was that Transportation Benefit District program or project that we were able to lump in with this to do some ADA upgrades. So this is going to be a good job for us to get done, and it'll be really exciting to see that taken care of. The next project is a bridge replacement at 36th Street. This is a bridge that has been identified as had to be load restricted. So we've cut that down to a one-lane road currently. We are in a alternatives analysis, and we're advancing towards the 30% design. We started this in May of 2025 is when we awarded the contract to the design consultant, and they will be pursuing design through 2026. We hope to be able to get to construction in 2026. This may be pushed to 2027 pending the permitting and how funding works with the Public Works Board loan that we have. And this will have extensive permitting to get a bridge in. So that is also will be an extremely cool project to see go in. Then, as we talked about earlier, the downtown regional stormwater facility, this is tied into the Main Street roundabout. This will be right in that triangle section between Hartford and Grade Road. This is a stormwater vault that supports the Snohomish Regional Fire and Rescue and the Main Street roundabout. So we've received the 30% design of these projects. We are coordinating and continuing to coordinate with stakeholders, and that is going to continue through 2025. This is something that we're eagerly anticipating as well. So the construction, we're anticipating to be able to hit spring of 2026 for construction on that date. Frontier Heights Park Phase 2. This is the completion of the stormwater infrastructure of the entire park. This is kind of the continuation of what the original idea for Frontier Heights was. So we'll see here improved athletic functions. There'll be workout stations added around the asphalt path that's already out there. We'll be adding new landscaping, a sensory garden. We're increasing parking all along the park at all the different locations. Adding 4 pickleball courts and a multi-sport synthetic turf field, and then the asphalt viewing labyrinth, and like I said, the sensory garden. And so this is, we have final plans and specs in right now. We're just finalizing permitting and are hoping to advertise also in the next week or two. So we'll get to we anticipate having this ready for council to award as well when you come back from recess. The Bayview Trail Phase 0.5. This is another continuation of the Bayview Trail. This will be from 12th Street to 8th Street Southeast. So we are going to continue with that trail, constructing 10-foot wide multi-use path. We'll do a little bit of landscaping, and with this is also, we are going to be widening and rechannelizing the 12th Street and 87th Street intersection. This is something where we'll be able to do a little bit of traffic calming at the intersection to really improve that intersection and make this a much better area for the trailhead to cross the street and get back onto the trail. So we are in design with that. I think we're at a 95% design, and we should be at 100% design at the end of July. And we are targeting with the consultant an advertisement date of mid-August. And so we have total of three construction projects getting ready to go out in the next month. Finally, the Main Street improvements, actually, I don't think this is finally, but the Main Street improvements project, they are finalizing now. We are into hopefully the last 3 or 4 weeks of this. They are finalizing drainage. We do have a hard date of the July 30th and 31st for the overlay of all the road. So that's going to be exciting to finally get, the whole road turned black. There will be a light pole suspension that is required. As we talked about in our last update, the light poles have an extremely long lead times, and we anticipate delivery of those in November of this year. But the rest of the project will be substantially completed within the next month. Then Soper Hill Sidewalk, another transportation benefit program project. That is also on our list. We'll be doing 2,400 feet of multi-use path with a vegetated buffer as well, and at ADA compliance and the existing infrastructure. And this will tie into Eagle Ridge Park. We are currently in the project charter development stage, which is gathering all the requirements, making sure we've got everything documented as far as getting ready to scope to go out to add advertisement for a design. We are anticipating getting through the fall, getting into design from the fall of this year into next year, and hopefully targeting a construction date of 2027. And then this is the list of all the capital projects we have from our capital improvement plan, just for support of what kind of the money that we're using to spend towards these projects and the dates. And so that is kind of the list of all the 12 things that we have going on for this year, between Ben and I and the rest of the team. So if you have any questions, please feel free.
Looks great. Thank you.
Eric, do you think you can put a little more on your plate?
You can always take.
I didn't see the pump track on there. That was number 13, I think.
It makes for a strong back that way. Well, thank you so much.
Any questions for Eric? Great.
I would like to make a comment on what you put in the package where we had the links to the website were very helpful. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Eric, I just tell you, I'm just getting a lot of feedback about the walkability in the city and the different projects that are going on. The citizens are paying attention, they're aware. And, many are saying it's the best it's ever been. And I would have to agree with that. So I just want to thank you and your team for doing that, because more people are getting out and being able to walk around the city and leave their cars behind and ride their bikes or strollers or do whatever. So thank you for that.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's something that we really want to prioritize, the improving the city and making it better for everyone. So we're really happy to hear the feedback.
Anything else for Eric? Great. Good report, Eric. Let's move forward. I think we have Shannon for say the F word.
That's longer than 4 letters.
I'm gonna bring it up.
Yeah.
Good evening, Shannon Simon from the Environmental Programs Manager. So tonight, I wanted to bring to you an update. City Council had asked us in the past, what are the impacts on the water quality in Lake Stevens from fireworks, the F word? And we wanted to just bring to you what we have looked at so far. So this came up in 2024, and we started looking at, well, what can we test for to be able to, oh, sorry, no one can hear me, maybe. So what can we test for to be able to determine if there is an impact from fireworks on the water quality? And we came across a study that the EPA was doing in 2024 with 226 lakes, and they're looking at a compound called perchlorate. And they were looking at the impacts before and after fireworks. And so we were lucky to be able to join that study in 2024. It was no cost to the city. We took samples on the 3rd and the 5th, and then a week after the fireworks events. Perchlorate, the reason that this is being looked at is it's a compound found in fireworks, and It's not a natural compound that we would find in the environment. And it can have a human and animal disruption to the thyroid gland, which can result in disruption to size and other functions for aquatic species and for humans. And when we did the study, what we found was that there was an increase in the perchlorate levels, specifically at North Cove Park. You can see in your packet, there's a couple graphs there. The day following the fireworks, so that was July 5th. And then a week later, those levels came back down. We have this red line here on the graph that shows it at 1 part per billion. That's the kind of the threshold level where they've seen impacts to aquatic species, the thyroid impacts. And because we did see that kind of spike there at North Cove, we did perform the test again this year with this year's 4th of July event. We do not have those results back, but once we get those results back, we'll be able to look at those and see if this is something that's potentially could be compounding in the water and just kind of raising our base level concentrations of perchlorate, or if it's something that we would recommend continue testing for. So we don't have a lot of things to say conclusively, yes, this is bad for the environment, but we do now have some information to just give us an idea of what could be happening in the environment, and just a baseline for, how do we want to continue looking at the impacts from this event in the future. So I think I'll pause there and just see if there's any questions on it. And if this is something that the council wishes to maybe dive a little bit deeper on, maybe we can come back after the break and dive into it a little bit more. So with that, I'll take some questions.
With the perchlorate, is that potentially a heavy metal?
Good question. It's, I don't know for sure. We did test for metals, like a suite of metals the first time, and we didn't really get any hits, but I'm wondering if maybe the metals kind of fell out of the water column too fast after the fireworks too, for us to get a good idea, and if we would need to look more at the sediments for that. But yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to get some sediment samples and see if we have it sitting in the lake and not going in the outflow.
Yeah, and there's other things that can bring metals into the lake too, and just runoff, our stormwater runoff, bringing it from the environment, from roads, from other activities in the watershed.
It also might be impressive to see what the levels are at a certain address on the lake.
Well, you can see
Instead of
that
North-
there was an
instead of
increase
North Cove.
at North Cove.
When I was looking at this, there's a lot of focus on aquatic life, particularly since North Cove is significantly higher. And before, for the 4th of July, it's actually slightly lower than the other two lakes. Is there any research on the risk this has to children swimming and playing in the water at Cove Park, which has with elevated levels? And does it deposit within the fish and cause risk eating fish that are caught on the lake that were exposed to this? So I guess I didn't see really much on the effects of people as much as aquatics. Do we know?
So I'm definitely not an expert in it. What I did see a couple studies that say that it doesn't really bioaccumulate in fish. So it like other compounds would, like PCBs. So to understand what the effects of the fish are, we would probably want, you would need to look at the fish and do tissue samples on the fish. As far as human impacts, while there's a significant increase in here, the levels are still low. So when they look at a threshold of 1 part per billion, that's kind of that threshold where you start to see impacts in fish. And then we can see that's somewhat short-lived because a week later it's below that threshold. And when this study, this comes up, what I've read, it comes up a lot in lakes that are used for drinking water. And also looked at in groundwater sources that are used for drinking water. And that's kind of where this kicked off with the EPA. We don't use, Lake Stevens is not a drinking water reservoir. And so those kind of concerns, we don't really have those concerns. And I think that
The California EPA, they set human health risk at 6 parts per billion. And so we're far below that. But as far as swimming in the lake, I don't believe that there's any concern with that.
Thank you.
I have a question about what, if any, of that chemical compound affects our alum or milfoil in the lake?
That's a great question, and I don't have an answer to that, to know what the interactions between perchlorate and alum are.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
How difficult would that be to that ChatGPT? Would that help you out so quick?
We can look into it more.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just for my own curiosity, because for those that I had a concern about alum versus the milfoil, and I was confused about our treatment processes for that. And so, anyway, so just helpful to have that information.
Yeah. We can look, we can do a little bit more research and bring it back to the council if that's what you want us to do.
Quick question. This is really in the weeds, but it actually makes a difference whether
Sure.
or not this matters or not. So in toxicology, time-weighted averages are what's important, not just that you came in contact with something, but how long you were. This is less than a week that it's above that one threshold. Does the EPA have any of that information that you were given? I'm sure it's out there, but was that included in the study?
As far as what the impacts were, just for
For a week, yeah.
For a week. I don't have that information on hand of what that exposure impact is for that time frame, but that's something else we could bring back.
Shannon, I appreciate you doing this because it leads to some other questions, I guess. Do we have the ability to monitor air quality on the 4th of July?
We do not have any air quality sensors here in
Is
Lake Stevens
there
at the city.
any way that information could be incorporated into kind of this round robin study, I guess you might say, as to the factors and the impacts of fireworks?
Just overall impacts of fireworks, not
Yeah.
only on air and water.
Right.
Without measuring it directly here in the city with air quality sensors, it's something we could look at through the literature. I think that that's been researched probably elsewhere too, and you could look at what the impacts are.
And I guess that kind of leads to, I would suggest that the last 2 years, it obviously hasn't rained on 4th of July, but the odd years we do have rain. And my guess is that rain would capture a lot of this smoke and take it directly into the water. These readings would be much higher.
Yeah, some of the studies we did look at, they do talk about that as more of also looking at lakes in proximity to more developed urban areas that do fireworks, and then how is that being transported to those lakes and then deposited in the lakes.
Right. Well, again, I appreciate you bringing this forward. I look forward to the information from this year's testing. Anybody that lives in this area, I hope would have concerns about the environmental impacts of what's going on with the amount of fireworks that we have going off. And it's interesting as to the amount of fireworks that are going off. When people consistently blow off fireworks for half hour, 2 hours, by the time 10:30, 11 o'clock, midnight rolls around, it's nothing but a fog around here. So I would be really curious to see what the air impacts are. I'm sure there's folks in our community that have respiratory problems because of it. It has to. And hopefully at some point we're going to come to a reckoning that we need to do something about this because it's getting out of hand. So we get our letters constantly. I do my preaching, but I'm going to keep doing it because every year it gets worse and worse. And unfortunately, somebody's going to end up in a bad shape here in our community, maybe multiple people because of it. So again, thank you.
Yeah.
Shannon, really quick, do you happen to know any other potential sources of perchlorate? Because if I'm reading figure 2 right, the red circles indicate the measurements in Lake Stevens, and it looks like we're significantly higher even pre-firework event So it seems like just in general, there's something feeding these into our lake more so than the average lake in this study. Do you happen to know what that might be or what those sources might be?
I don't offhand. The other thing to consider, I didn't look closely at what all these other lakes were. From my original understanding of the EPA study, they focused on drinking water reservoirs. And so typically they have there's different requirements on drinking water reservoirs and they're a little bit more protected. And so it could just be that we're not, this is a lake surrounded by an urbanized area, and that it could just be that the study also didn't look at similar things like that. They were maybe looking at lakes that were a little bit more isolated, but in close proximity to urban areas. And so when we can bring more information back with the 2025 results, and we can do a little bit deeper dive into that comparison and to see if there's any other sources that we may have.
That'd be great. And just, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to understand it. So
Sure.
when you say reservoirs and drinking water protected, I mean, you mean like they're filtered or
There's just different regulatory requirements around managing lakes or reservoirs that are used as drinking water sources. So Lake Stevens is not used as a drinking water source.
okay, so that could be controlling what seeps into the water. That could be treating
What
the
gets
water.
developed around it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Different monitoring requirements. Yep. How it's used, what kind of like uses you can have on those lakes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Shannon? Great report. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Maybe
you.
we take a look at the Puget Sound air quality folks to see if they've got a rating too.
Yep. Aaron just sent a message about that. So
Yeah.
good thought.
All right, great. Let's go to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to pass the consent agenda, please?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, most consent agenda passes. I do need a motion to take off the table the public hearing on the automated traffic safety camera ordinance.
Reason?
To schedule at another date or?
No, we had tabled it before, so we need to take it off the table before we address it.
So I'll make a motion to untable automated traffic safety cameras discussion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let's continue our public hearing. It is open for automated traffic safety camera ordinance. Do we have any additional staff comments?
So I'm here today just on behalf of Aaron Halverson. He's also online if we do have any questions for him. What's in front of council tonight is an updated ordinance with the changes that were requested at the July 1st meeting. There was some just kind of grammatical changes that were requested, and that's been updated and is now available. If there's any additional questions or comments from the council on the ordinance.
All right, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor for public comments just on this subject. Is there anybody online who'd like to provide comments just on this subject?
If anyone online would like to address the council on item 11A, the public hearing for automated traffic safety cameras ordinance, please raise your digital hand and I'll let you in. I don't see any.
None? And is everybody in the audience? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Tasha.
Hey there, my name's Tasha. I just have a quick question. I've been looking into the whole traffic camera stuff. And one of the things that I noticed in a lot of areas is that these traffic camera companies are actually selling the information that they're receiving as far as insurance companies go. So I wanted to know, has Lake Stevens looked into this particular company to protect those of us here in the community from having our insurance rates go up if we happen to have our information sold. So I just want to bring that to your attention. I don't know if that's something that you guys have been made aware of or if you've looked into it all. But it is pretty common for these traffic cameras companies to sell off information based off of the license plate numbers and things like that to the insurance companies. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and then see if maybe at some point you can follow up with that. Okay, thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close public comments on this portion of the hearing. Any further comments, Shannon?
I have no further comments.
Okay, and then any questions for staff from the council? To address that concern, this ordinance doesn't deal with the data. We would deal with that with a contract with whoever we would go with to provide the traffic camera services.
Yeah, this ordinance just sets it so we can move forward with
Correct.
all of the stuff we have to do before we.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the ordinance sets the framework for the program. And then to be able to implement the program, we would, need to work with a contractor and then have a contract in place and then also do an analysis for where the traffic cameras would be placed.
Correct. Okay, any other questions? Any discussion or deliberation by the council on the subject? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and can I get a council action to approve, deny, or continue?
I move to approve ordinance number 1200 for traffic, automated traffic cameras.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed?
No.
Okay. Note, Councilmember Hilt was in that one. Perfect. So with that, we will move forward to our next item, which is action item Caballero Park acquisition.
Good evening, City Council. Sarah Garceau, Parks and Recreation Director, to present on Caballero Hill Park acquisition. Load my screen here as a quick overview. Caballero Park is currently owned by the county. It is made up of 7 parcels for a total of 35 acres. It has an off-leash dog park, a skate park, a playground, a basketball court, and around 8.5 acres of land that can be developed that currently is not. It was annexed into the city limits around 2009 by the city taking over the county park and managing it by the city. We would be proposing increased level of service, including increased routine cleanings, adding trash cans, minimizing response times for graffiti and vandalism, and also look at future development potential for recreational amenities and opportunities. As a reminder, the Parks and Recreation Planning Board reviewed and approved the potential future acquisition back on May 12th. And the City Council authorized the city to proceed with coordinating the transfer back on May 20th. We have proceeded with talking to the county and have worked out all of the details. As an overview, what would be coming forward with budget is about $62,000 a year to maintain the park. Of course, year 1, which is now 2025, would have a supplemental budget percentage of this. Likely right now, we're looking at an end of August, early September transfer date. So it would be about 3-4 months of this split onto this year's budget. Equipment cost of $20,000 would occur in this budget year. We have a maintenance worker who was already approved and hired. We had shifted the 0.5 for Frontier Heights Phase 2 since we haven't constructed that yet. One thing new on here that wasn't last time is we had forgotten to pull in the information for a seasonal worker. We would be requesting part-time seasonal worker during the summer to help keep up on needs. And then we would be coming back after we look at capital costs and future development. This map, as well as the next one, was presented prior to show you the current restrictions on the property. Essentially, the Department of Commerce grant will be falling off in the future, whereas the Conservation Futures area seems to be a permanent overlay. It just means we have to keep it for outdoor recreation. And this was another identical map just to show you the areas in different colors. This map in front of you, an updated one was emailed out tonight. The one in the packet may be a little bit outdated if it did get uploaded there. This is extremely hard to read, so I parceled this out into 4 sections and blew it up a little bigger so that especially on Zoom, they can see it. A printed copy is in front of you as well, but it may help for you to view the PDF copy and zoom in and out. Essentially, what we did was take all of the easements inside of the title report and overlaid it onto this map so that it was very clear to us, the city, what easements are on the property. The easements that are shown are utility easements. Some are roads, some are for the water line and utilities. There's also an old septic drain field easement. That was for a parcel that is part of the 7 right now. And that's because these were individual home sites prior. So they had to have easements for those types of items. Since we own the property, we could always abandon that in the future. I don't see any easements that would change our mind for acquiring the property or future potential for build. The most notable item that we would not be able to ever build on would be, of course, right now, City of Everett water line is the largest one. And then there are, of course, easements for power lines. The donation agreement has also been updated and is provided in your packet. Notably, section 7 is where additional covenants will be added to this property at the time the county transfers it to the city. And that is to make sure that this remains a park and remains public property. They, of course, want to ensure that we just don't sell it to private developers. Now, we are able to develop it for recreation, and we are able to have agreements for other companies to run that recreation if we were to ever go out to an RFQ, RFP for that. They have also dropped the $10 donation transfer. So the only money that would cost the city, we had to pay, of course, for the map to be created to do the survey. And then there'll be some fees to file with the county and transfer all of the paperwork. The suggested action is to approve the mayor to accept Cavallaro Park as a donation from Snohomish County. This document, the agreement that is in front of you, could be signed tomorrow or today, if the mayor so chooses after the meeting. Then it needs to go over to the county for signing. They are on recess at the moment and will be back in mid-August. We expect this to be on their first or second meeting, which would put the execution date mid-August. And then we would have to look at the timeline to file with the county and get everything solidified for the transfer. We would be preparing a joint ribbon cutting with both county and city to do the transfer. Are there any questions at this time?
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Quick question. We got 24 some odd easements on here. Has the city attorney reviewed all these easements? And I realize you put them on the map and so forth, but what are the impacts?
Well, that's why I suggested that we do this map so that we can have a good overview of where the easements are and do they conflict with any potential projects? So I think I was thinking that too. It's fair to do, but these appear to be just standard easements. I don't see them as a problem unless they are located somewhere that would prevent the city from going forward with projected improvements.
There's no small print somewhere on one of these easements that says you shall not.
From 1883.
Yeah, I just find it extremely interesting that one of the easements is over the, it's the Everett water line easement, and looking at this map, there's a parking lot on it. Just a comment.
Just pointing that out.
Observation.
Have no.
Just kind of picked up on it.
Is it hay?
It's just gravel. I think that might be.
Oh, it's gravel.
Gravel.
Yeah.
Although it is a hard surface.
That is,
We could engineer gravel, just not asphalt.
it is impervious.
And then for clarification, Sarah, the $20,000 for equipment, and that equipment isn't restricted just to this property, correct? We can use it on other parks in the area.
Absolutely. Yes, our equipment seems to ebb and flow depending on where it needs to be used.
Great. Any other questions for Sarah?
I guess I have a comment. So one of our residents is on a select softball team, traveled to another state. 1,800 teams participated in their tournament. And they're traveling several states away to get to a tournament that can accommodate that. And it's in a large area. Sports tourism draws significant amounts of money into the community. And it would be great if, I know we're working towards that, and this may be a step in that direction to where we can at least have several fields where we can have those people come and stay in our city and spend their dollars here and enjoy the beauty that we have in our community.
Yep. Okay, can I get a motion on this? So
Second.
okay, I have can we state the motion?
Okay.
Just for clerk's sake.
I've got it right here if you want to switch.
Yeah, let's switch.
Okay. I move to approve the mayor to accept Cavallaro Park as a donation from Snohomish County.
Second, there we go.
All right,
Good play.
well done, well done. I have a motion and
There
a
it is.
second. Is there any discussion on this motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. This is a great acquisition and great asset for the city. Create some more space for our citizens.
Gives us more control.
Yeah,
You know, what's pretty cool about it, I like the balance that's being created, as far as the east and west side of Highway 9, we're creating more balance as far as providing access to green spaces for our citizens.
yeah. All right, let's go to the next one. Memorandum of Understanding with the Arts and Parks Foundation. Russ.
Okay, Russ Wright, Community Development Director for the City of Lake Stevens. I have an exciting proposal in front of you tonight. This has been a project that the mayor has been a champion of. And it is to put a mural on the wall at Market Street and Highway 9. So we've been able to coordinate with the homeowners association of that condominium complex, as well as their property manager and the Arts and Parks Foundation, all working collaboratively. And that's what you have in front of you tonight would be that memorandum of understanding with the Arts and Parks Foundation. So the city's contribution would be from our arts fund. We would contribute $20,000 from that dedicated fund to do the paint materials for that, potentially some in-kind labor support. And then the Arts and Parks Foundation will be responsible for finding the artist and managing the project. So super excited about this. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, looking for direction from council tonight.
So that's from Highway 9 to the entrance to that condominium complex, or the concrete wall. It's about 4 to
Yes.
5 feet tall there.
Yep,
So we'd have a nice mural instead of graffiti. Is that
that is the plan.
good?
Yeah, as one of the people that keeps painting the graffiti out on that wall, I wholeheartedly think we ought to do this.
Is there any kind of approval process as to what is going to be painted on there?
The Arts and Parks Foundation will work with us. They are establishing criteria for that. What we've talked about is to have it be representative of Lake Stevens, maybe the natural environment, but it's probably not going to be anything overly crazy abstract art, something like that, that should reflect Lake Stevens. And the staff and the homeowners association will have an opportunity to look at the concepts before a final approval.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, can we get a motion on that?
Move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the city of Lake Stevens and Lake Stevens Arts and Parks Foundation.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Third,
What was that?
third,
All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
And any opposed? Great, that'll be a fun project to get that done. I know I get tired of looking
Pretty cool.
at squiggles. All right, big one, city buildings update. Russ, again.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just going to start by saying what an incredibly exciting night this is for the city council with some projects that have spanned decades. So that is amazing, some of the work you get to do tonight. With that, I'm going to go ahead and pull up a quick PowerPoint and then walk you through the different projects. Okay, so again, we're going to talk about the couple of the civic buildings that we've been planning for the last several years, talking about the Municipal Services Campus first, and then about our museum and retail building downtown. We've had regular updates to the council over the last year. The last one was in June, where we had described some of the different options and alternatives that we had looked at, starting from our initial concepts, getting those down to preferred options. And then since then, we've worked with our consultant, and now we have the prices for those projects and want to walk through those with the council and how we've looked at streamlining that project and making sure that the costs are correct and we're efficiently building that space. So this is a combined diagram of what you've seen before. I won't go over everything on there, but what this chart shows are all of the important things that we either received from the city council itself, from the public, our municipal staff, about the things that they found to be important in this new campus. So it's everything from being energy efficient to having some public outdoor space to having all of our teams together and lots of other big ideas. So again, that's just all in here to show it to you in sort of a colorful way, but it also represents that we've really heard from all our stakeholders what's crucial to make this building and this complex successful. These are the actions we've taken since we met with you last. So the big thing is all of the community needs are going to be met at this campus. For most of our departments will be there, easy access to the population being on South Lake Stevens and 20th Street. We've gone through the internal and the site layouts. Those have been refined, and we will talk about some of the phasing that we can do. As I just mentioned, we had to go through the program and we scaled down some things. We had to make some hard decisions, but we wanted to make sure that we had an appropriate budget that we could afford moving forward. And that meant we also reduced some of the exterior improvements. And there are some decision points for the council on phasing, say, passport office and the wellness center, which are a couple of the things we're recommending that we postpone to a later date until we can afford those. So the big one is the refined project cost is about $7 million. That's down from about 8 and maybe 8.5 million with some of the earlier projections. I'll sort of pause there and say, with the renovation of this building, probably 60% of the costs is to upgrade the mechanical, electric, and plumbing systems. So that's your AC, your heat controls, and all of those things in the building to make them energy efficient, the change of use. So those were some of the big ticket items. The interior fit and finish, actually not so much. So it was really those big numbers that we were wrestling with, as well as some of the site development. Originally, we had talked about covering the pond there to increase parking, and that would have been about, another $600,000, and we would gain 7 or 8 spots. So the math didn't work there. And those are some of the gymnastics we did as we looked at this project, just to making sure, again, we are meeting the core functions, but being responsible with the dollars we can afford for the project. What's really cool is we still have space for future growth in the project, and we're able to retain a lot of the tenants in the project, which helps activate the space, and it also helps with our potential bond debt. And another exciting thing, the finance director, myself, and the city administrator have met about the project costs, and the project can be paid for entirely out of existing funds. So for the public, no new revenues are needed to do this project. The basic program elements, and we had talked about these previously. Building 1, that is where the subway is. That would be where the permit center is. And then there would be a multi-purpose council chambers on top. That's one of the other spaces that we probably had to dial back a little bit. And different council members had expressed that they were okay with a more casual type space. And so I think that's where we're going to land, where we could sort of replicate what we have here at the mill, but not necessarily make it 100% dedicated council chambers where there's still going to be the ability to make that a multi-purpose space for the community to go in there on the south end of the lake if they need that space, just like people are up here on the north end of the lake. Building 2, that is where all the professional offices are. That will house admin, human resources, and finance on the first floor. And originally we were planning on a full remodel of the lower floor as well. That was in preparation if the merger with the sewer district were to move forward more quickly. But right now we can sort of postpone that with just a couple of tweaks. We can keep the lower floor as it is and meet the program needs again for the city and look to the future when we can renovate where the dentist office is in that space if we need it again for future growth. Building 3, that is where some of the restaurants are on the other side of the plaza. The goal is still to have IT in that building. And then with the downstairs, part of the program we had talked about was doing a passport office down there and then a wellness center. And those were a couple of items, again, that just weren't crucial to the initial plan and can be phased in. We'd still like to do some light renovations down there, carpet, paint, and have those spaces serviceable as needed. Or if we decide to lease out those spaces until we're ready to move forward with additions or additional remodels in the future, find grant funding. I'd already mentioned, where some of the big ticket items were, the plumbing, mechanical, and electrical upgrades. But what we can say is all the buildings will have great workspaces, break areas, meeting rooms, flex spaces for our employees, and then all of those different service areas. Some of the trade-offs, we looked at the initial audio visual recommendation that came in, and the price tag that was on that was just way too high. I'm not even going to tell you what it is. So we're going to work to make sure we can have serviceable off-the-shelf products, working with our IT department and our consultant, again, to make sure we have quality audio visual in the buildings, but again, right-sized. We've talked about the passport office, that could be postponed or put in as a bid alternate. And the same is true of the wellness center. You've seen this before. It's just graphically presented this time. It's everything I just said, where people are going to be, and circles and highlights those areas with targeted renovations from what we had described previously, and areas that will be phased into the program at a later date. The site improvements. We're going to be able to connect all of the buildings. That has been a goal, have clear directional walkways for staff to get back and forth, as well as our customers between the different buildings. We're able to create some different outdoor spaces, a little plaza area in front of the permit center, a little plaza area in front of the main city hall building, and then that looped trail on the outside of the wetland. And that is the area that the council had talked about also having as a memorial potential for former member, council member Tagent. As far as the parking lot goes, we will seal coat the parking lot to make sure that it continues to function rather than a grind and overlay. It will be restriped, and then we'll continue to look at our budget if there are any extras we can do to the site. The exterior refresh, we're really just looking at doing the maintenance of the building, repair the siding, the windows as we need to, paint it, and try to do some updates in a few spots to modernize the building. So with that, we have a recommendation in front of the council tonight to approve the scope and scope for the municipal services campus, not to exceed $7 million, without prior approval from the council. Listed out some next steps. We need to complete the permit drawings, choose the interior, exterior finishes, prepare our bid package, and then move to construction and move in towards the fall of next year. And before I turn it over to the council, I will say that myself and City Administrator Brazel were able to go to Monroe's ribbon cutting of their new city hall yesterday. The same architect firm had done that project. It turned out beautifully, and we were super impressed with what they did. So happy to take any comments or address any questions from the council. And then we'll talk about the museum second.
Yeah, I got a couple questions. One, so what's the site as the same siding on all the buildings on the municipal campus?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's
Is that
a
already
lap
planned?
cedar siding.
Oh, it's cedar.
Mhm.
Okay, and what, I didn't see the space for where ink it, and what is the plans for, I think that's the largest space that is not, that I'm not aware of a specific purpose for that. What is the intent for that space?
Or the.
Where ink it your way used to
Oh,
be?
where Inkit was going to be that.
No, where they used to be.
Yeah, where Inkit is what we have programmed for the wellness center. And then IT would be above.
Above that,
space.
okay.
And future passport.
And future passport in the front of that at the storefront.
Go ahead. No, go for it. I was just gonna, this is a big project. And I guess looking back on things and trying to recollect where we were at when we purchased this property. I think it's good to kind of go back and reflect as to what changes have taken place and where we're headed. I kind of pulled some information out and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think last year when we were talking about capital budget project, our project municipal service campus, the allocation was about 11.3 million. And that was that was a budget total project cost. Refresh my memory as to what we paid for this property.
We paid 7 million for the property.
So we were anticipating about $4.5 million to kind of do the fixes on this thing. And now we're at 7. Is that, and you've pared it back. Is that due to escalating costs? Is it due to a change in scope? Is it due to what? Because this capital budget was presented to us last October, I believe, or September. And so 9 months later, things have changed by $3.5–4 million.
So the project scope and the budget that would have gone back to work that was being done in 2022, 2023 to get those estimates. You've had annual escalators. One thing that we found is the overall construction market, and this has changed with the costs. We have new energy code in place that's driving up the cost of the project. And there are contingencies that go into an older building that you just have to set aside. You don't know what you're going to run into when you tear those walls open, which is a little different than a new project. So yeah, the overall cost we had thought was going to be somewhere in that $11 million range. Now we're looking at that $14 million range. Put it in perspective. Again, I can use Monroe as an example. Their campus came in at about $17 million. We won't talk about what Marysville's campus came in at, but just to put it in perspective for the square footage they're getting and for us purchasing and renovating, I don't think it's a crazy number.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. I think it's important for the public to understand that, we're in a dynamic time as far as costs. And here we are. I mean, we, essentially 12 million, we're at 14, we'll probably be $15 million. So, and then as you indicated, we do have the budget and the money to pay for this without increasing revenue. Is that correct? Okay. Yes.
Yes, from the bond debt, REIT dollars, pandemic recovery. Yeah, we've gone over all of the funds where we can pull from.
So is there an impact to other items that we're not able to do because of that?
I'm going to probably hand that off to Barb. I'm going to say probably no. There's trade-offs. We've been holding the pandemic recovery funds for a rainy day. And this is that rainy day.
Okay.
And any other comments you want to make on that?
Thank you. I would agree with Director Wright. When it comes to pandemic recovery fund.
Is your microphone on?
Oh, I was holding it down. No, I'm good. I was doing it the opposite way. So yes, when it comes to the pandemic recovery funds, we have had that money, some monies in there that were not allocated out yet. when it came to the 24th, 91st project with Costco and those costs that came in. We had money sitting in that fund that was collecting interest that we were able to pay more of those costs from that funds and from those interest. And so it opened up some of those pandemic recovery funds that we had allocated to that project. So we're able to move those over. And then recently, I don't know if council is aware, the state legislature passed the House Bill 1791, which actually increases the flexibility of REIT dollars. So what we've been trying to do for many, many years to make REIT 2 funds usable for REIT 1 purposes. The things that in REIT 2 you didn't used to be able to use REIT dollars for were municipal uses, municipal campuses, courts, police stations, and purchase of park property. And now we're able to do that. So all of our REIT 1 funds are really allocated to the municipal campuses and the bonds and that type of thing that we've been doing. And so it's mostly bond payments. So we didn't have a lot of leeway in those, and we didn't have a lot left over in the forecast. We do have some funds in the REIT 2 that we were hoping to be able to use for this. And now that it's opened up, that the passage of this bill has opened that up for us, we do have those funds in there. Obviously, in the future years, that will mean there'll be less going towards other capital projects, but we don't have anything forecasted for those dollars specifically right now. So we will come with the budget will roll forward into 2026 for the majority of this construction costs. And so we'll build it into the 2026 budget coming out of the REIT 2 as well.
I appreciate you being cost conscious and cut some of these things, because again, everything's costing more than originally projected. And I appreciate you keeping that in mind so that we don't kind of have a runaway train here on our hands. So thank you.
How does our square footage of our municipal campus compare to Monroe's campus?
So we're going to have about 14,000 square feet of space initially. Their build out was smaller than that, but they have some different things. They have a court and their municipal services administration, and then they have another building like we do our public works in a different space. I didn't catch the overall square footage yesterday, did you?
I didn't off the top of my head.
But it's comparable, but probably, I would say, slightly smaller.
Russ, hadn't we talked about, sorry, it's kind of loud. Hadn't we talked about the council chamber being able to potentially serve as a courtroom at some point?
Yes.
So with the scaling back of the AV and the way you just talked about Monroe, are we not thinking that as much anymore, given the revised budget?
It actually probably makes it more flexible to be that in the future. Because if we just go in there right now and do, I'm just going to say carpet and paint, a little bit facetiously. But if we keep it fairly simple, we're not adding walls, things like that, at the point that we are ready to have a full blown court, then I think we'll know what we need, because we learned some things yesterday that were a little different than we were expecting. So.
Okay, thank you.
Russ, did you want to do a motion on this now and then talk about the museum, or talk about the museum?
I think it would be appropriate to do it now, and then council can focus in on the other project.
Okay.
So I'll move to approve the budget and scope for the municipal services campus, not to exceed $7 million.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the budget and scope for the municipal services campus not to exceed $7 million. Do I have any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, 1 nay. Councilmember Donahue. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was you. Sometimes my hearing is not right. All right, let's talk about the museum.
All right. Thank you, council. Okay, so again, we'll just move right on into talking about the museum, another great civic project. This has been a project that's been planned since 2018, when we started out our journey with our downtown plan. So as you all know, it'll be located right over here And you also all know that one of the things we really looked at this project was how do we make it successful, bring people downtown? And again, looking at finances, how do we make this project economically viable for the city? Which led to it not just being a singular use with the museum, but adding these 2 tenant spaces. So as it sits, there's going to be just over 3,500 square feet devoted to the museum across 2 floors. And combined, the 2 tenant spaces will be about 2,300 to about 3,000 with the patios for commercial leasable spaces. So again, just going to sort of run through where were we. So the project meets the community goals for the cultural facilities and provides that economic driver, like I just mentioned. The design and permit package are nearly complete. We've had the boundary line adjustment in, and it is under review. And the grant from the Historical Society was extended for another 2 years into this biennium. We've gone through the cost estimate, and again, you will see an increase in the cost estimate, but the project estimate is 3.9 million. Some of the factors for that is obviously we went from a 2-story to a 3-story building. There's been the time frame and the escalation that's happened. And those are really the big drivers of that. Again, what's exciting is the project can be paid from existing funds. So we had set aside bond debt and other dollars aside to finance this project, including the nearly $800,000 grant from the state. And we will be going back out to the state to see if we can get a few more dollars, and hopefully we can, but if not, we're okay still. We also created marketing materials. We thought it to be really important to get tenants into this space as soon as possible. And that's where we're at. We're negotiating a lease agreement with our first tenant right now to do a restaurant space in the top floor. And we've had serious discussions with somebody who would like to do a coffee shop in the lower tenant space. So that's really a great sign, help activate that. And then we've been playing around with the name of the space. And right now we have a working name of Millspur Yard. So thinking of, commons, the yard, something like that. It's really inviting that you see in other communities. And that's where we kind of landed again, so people can refer to it as a destination place and continue with the historical references we've done throughout our downtown. You guys have seen this before, so I won't spend any time there. Again, that's just the building, how it meets the needs of the Historical Society. And we've taken a lot of their feedback as we've designed this space. And again, we're to this recommendation. There's the next steps. Complete the permit drawings. We had to prepare the bid package, go to construction, and we would be in there at about a similar time. Before I turn it over to the council, I will also mention, and you know this, it's actually going back to moving City Hall. It's all a domino effect. So when we're able to move out of here, that building is done. That means our current buildings will go away. It creates an opportunity to expand the parking in at North Cove Park. So it'll be able to finish out our downtown plan. And so lots of pieces come into play all around the same period of time. So staff is recommending that council approve the budget and scope of work for the Lake Stevens Historical Museum and Retail Building. And it would be not to exceed $4 million without council's prior approval. So with that, happy to take comments and questions.
The rest of the packet says not to exceed $7 million. And this says $4 million. So I'm hearing that 4 million is the accurate number, not 7 million that's in our packet.
7 million was for the city hall, and 4 million if there was a typo.
Both say 7 million. City Hall says so.
On the front page, Russ, under recommendations, there's a typo.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's $4 million for the museum, not an additional 7 million.
Okay, that was a very large jump there.
Yeah, no, that's a huge thing.
So along some of the lines, just because $100,000 is a lot of money, later in the packet, it actually says 3.9. So is it 3.9 or 4?
The bid estimate is 3.9. I am asking the council to authorize up to 4 million.
Okay.
If there are any things that come in that it's a contingency that we just don't expect.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
When do you expect to break ground?
The earliest I think we could probably break ground would be middle of October, November.
Once again, it's pretty exciting that we have the spaces pre-leased. We're working on the contracts right now. That speaks a lot to the work that staff's done to get us to this point to be able to fund this building.
Was neat during Aquafest to be able to tour the existing space that they have and, just the eager staff that are there and all the artifacts that they've been able to preserve is really extraordinary. It'll be nice to give them a dedicated space to showcase all the assets we have for our historical elements of our city.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget and scope for the historical museum and retail building not to exceed $4 million without prior approval from the council.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to approve the budget scope for the Historical Museum Retail Building not to exceed $4 million. And a second. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, great.
Thank you.
Appreciate all the work on that, Russ. He's just been the lone man with the single oar knocking this thing out for the last several months and has done just a great job on putting that package together. And I appreciate the council approving this. It's gonna really set a lot of dominoes forward for the city and just improve not only what we're doing with our citizens, but also with our staff, which is key. All right. Let's talk about boat launch passes.
Boat launch passes,
Yeah.
Director Garceau, Parks and Recreation Department. The city owns two different boat launches one is over at Davies Beach, the other is here at North Cove Park. In the staff report that I provided, you'll see a full overview of the pass types, how they can be used, how they're purchased, their amounts, and additional information there. The main difference is at both locations, a City of Lake Stevens annual pass is accepted. And at both locations, we also honored the Disabled Veterans Pass. That's a lifetime pass that is issued to individuals who qualify. And then specifically over at Davies Beach, we allow the Snohomish County annual pass that will be discontinued at the end of this year. Back in the meeting on October 15th, where direction was given to change the pass types, we started negotiation with Snohomish County. We were unsuccessful in getting a 2-month agreement on that. We then tried for a 6-month severance, but they did request it go through the full fiscal year. Because the agreement from the transfer of the property from county to city outlined that we had to come to an agreement in order to dissolve it, we had to settle on a full fiscal year for financial purposes over at the county. And so that will be discontinued on December 31st of this year. And we do have signage on site as well as on our website. The other change that was made back then is we talked about the two different passes that were accepted. One over at North Cove Park. One of those is the WDFW vehicle pass. Fish and Wildlife, when you purchase a package for hunting and fishing, they give you a vehicle access pass. In our agreement with North Cove, we do not own the property underlying the boat launch and the parking area. We have a long-term agreement where we manage it. And in that agreement, it says that we must provide access for fishermen, for anglers. With that, when you buy your fishing license, you receive this vehicle access pass, and that is why we still continue to accept it today and honor that with our agreement. The other one that came into play within the last several years was when the Discover Pass was created at the state. I believe it was created back in 2009, if my memory is correct, somewhere in the realm of 2013, 2017, the city began to honor the Discover Pass. There was a lot of conversation about whether that provided access for fishermen and anglemen and whether we needed to continue to provide it. It was determined that pass was created long after our agreement and that the True Pass provided for anglers was that access pass. The Discover Pass is actually a state pass. It is honored at all state parks. And then the state has an agreement with Fish and Wildlife as well as one of their other departments to honor those passes at their location. They are purchased at $30 and they do a little cost sharing between their divisions. That pass now will be increasing to $45 here, I believe in about 2 or 3 months' time, they have announced. That specific pass with the city receiving no revenue, on October 15th, the council went ahead and gave direction to discontinue it with 2 months' notice. Our department took a little bit more time getting our paperwork together before we posted public notice. We did that here on site as well as online, and effective now, it is no longer accepted. Tonight, we are bringing this back to council for discussion. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, sir, for bringing this back to discussion. We've been back and forth on emails with this.
Absolutely.
So this was my concern. I'm huge on keeping my word. My dad once told me he was just raised dirt poor. And he told me, you know, Kimmy, you should always stand by your word because there may come a time when that's all you have, right? So what bothered me significantly about this is, for example, we are selling our Lake Stevens passes. Our annual city pass is valid for 12 months from the time of purchase and costs for $75 for citizens. First of all, I do want to thank you for making the parking very affordable, especially the hourly parking is very affordable. But, you know, it states that it's valid for 12 months. And so the Discover Pass, when it was on our website and it was purchased by people expressly purchasing it to park at Cove Park here in Lake Stevens, it said it was valid for 12 months. Now, we gave 2 months notice, and I was here at that meeting and I voted on it as well. Not really understanding that I'm voting for that. I voted to go back on my word. I voted to tell the people who bought a pass in September or October, no, this pass isn't going to be valid for 12 months. This pass is going to be, valid for 3 or 4. And there was no asterisks. There were no comments on the website. There was nothing to lead anybody who bought this pass to believe it was going to be discontinued in a few months. And so I just feel very strongly that they should be grandfathered in for 12 months from the date that we said we're no longer going to accept them. So if they were purchased after that date, we had already announced that, but if they were purchased before that date, I just strongly feel we should grandfather them because otherwise I feel we're not keeping up on our word. Does that make sense?
I absolutely understand. Yeah. We did, of course, when we accepted the pass on our page, stated that it did cover North Cove. It was one of the acceptable passes. The pass would have been sold on the state website, just to clarify. I do not believe in their state park list it ever listed hours, but I think it was by default covered hours from their marketing because of their language with the access to their Fish and Wildlife locations. So I absolutely understand and can answer any questions.
So you indicated we don't get any money from that pass either, right?
Correct. We
So
do not.
Why can't we just reverse our decision and call it good?
Because we're going back on our word.
No, reverse that decision.
Oh, yeah, reverse
just
it and grandfather.
Take care of it. We're not getting any revenue from it anyway, so.
Yeah, and I think that was the reason we chose to no longer accept it is because it wasn't generating revenue, which makes sense because it comes out of our budget to keep up that parking lot and boat launch and dock. And so it makes sense to want to generate revenue from parking. And I'm totally in agreement with that. I just feel like we went back on our word.
So is there a way for us to tell who did it? You know, let's say September and they go to September. Is there a way for us to know that by looking at their pass?
Yes, all the passes are dated.
No, they are.
Mhm.
It's going to be just up to the CSO officers or any police officer who's enforcing it to pay extra attention to that.
So you would reverse it to what date?
we were given notice, it looks like in October, that it was going to end in December. Is that correct?
So you would reverse it to any discovery passes bought prior to X date in.
Yeah,
December?
like December of 2024 or 2025, no, 2024.
We were talking about 4 months.
Well, we're talking, well, more than that. I mean, it's just, so if someone bought their pass, say, last July or August, right? So I think I bought a pass to use there. And like I said, the parking's super affordable. So this isn't even necessarily about dollar amounts to me. This is about keeping our word. So I bought a pass that expires September of 2025. So I had every right to believe I would be able to park at Cove Park Boat Launch until the end of September of 2025. That's all I'm saying is I think we should grandfather people who purchased them to the date that they expired when it butts up to when we changed our policy.
Right, but what is that date? If you guys want
I would have to ask
change,
Sarah.
what is that date?
October 30th, wasn't it?
There are two dates that you could consider, I believe. This was decided in the council meeting on October 15th. And then signs were produced and put on site with a 60-day notice. We discontinued on January 10th. So you could do it at the date it was discussed at council, which would be October 15th. You could do it on the date that we posted on site, which would be November 10th. Or you can do it on the date that we actually discontinued it, which would be January 10th.
When did we update our website?
Everything was in full effect 2 months before January 10th. And so that would be right around November 10th. I'd have to count the 31 days in the months.
I think that would be the date so that once, someone went on the website to see, what are my different options for parking at Cove Park? And that was no longer listed as an option, then it wouldn't, you know what I mean? But as long as it was listed as an option, I think we should honor it.
So Kim, what date would you, given the dates that she provided, what date would you feel comfortable with?
Me?
Yeah.
The date that it was removed from the website.
Sarah, also, how, do we not have any obligations to the state as far as honoring a Discover Pass? Like, how did we get into that program and then somehow also have the authority to just say, never mind?
When you go over to the state website and I can share my screen and bring it up if you'd like, it specifically gives you all of the locations of state parks. And then it says that it also covers fish and wildlife access locations, but you have to click on that link and then go to their website where it then lists all of their locations. And so still today, they have this listed as an Angler location because that is somewhere that when you buy your fishing pass, you can load in. It never officially said under the Discover Pass that it was an added thing. It was because of the default of the Angler pass over on the Fish and Wildlife one. So Fish and Wildlife honors both the vehicle access pass when you buy your angler's license, as well as the Discover Pass, because they have a cost share agreement. So it was kind of like a default as to how it was listed to also be covered on the Discover Pass. So to be clear, the state has never changed their website because the access pass is still good. It is us on the city side who I'm counting on November 11th, which was a Monday, was the official date that the website had noticed that it will be discontinued in the future date, 60 days, and we had the signs on site.
I guess what I'm asking, at some point, did we tell the state it was okay to list us and provide that information, or did they just unilaterally say, you can use this at Lake Stevens, and we never had a say?
No, if you have an angler's license at a state angling location, you can also use your Discovery Pass. That's why this became default. But this is not a state park. It's only an angler license position. So it doesn't include the Discovery Park now because it's ours.
After you took your action, we had some discussion with Fish and Wildlife. They were trying to encourage us to maintain the Discovery Pass as to be used at our facility, but we explained to them why we didn't think we had to do it and that we were going to proceed with the council action that they backed off. We haven't heard from them.
Okay, that was my main concern, is that we didn't have some lingering obligation to
Yeah.
the state out there too. So, okay.
So to clarify, we never had an agreement with the state where we told them we would start accepting the pass. It sounds like in a quick conversation with Russ that likely when we updated all of our signage after we did the capital project to complete the boat launch, which was around the 2017-18 era, when we updated our signs, the city decided to start listing it.
Okay.
So that would have been the official date that the city started acknowledging that we would accept the Discover Pass. But there was no official ever decision, and the Discover Pass did exist prior to that point when we weren't honoring them.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
So if we would like to do tonight, I want to move this conversation. The pass thing is not worth, it's worth it, but it's not worth 20 minutes of talking. So let's go ahead and get a motion of what you guys want to change the date to that we will accept Discovery Passes to.
I would like to make a motion to adjust the date of the Discover Pass to be valid through November of 2025, which would be 12 months from when it was noticed on the website that it was no longer going to be accepted.
So through November, the end of November.
The end of November.
Perfect.
I'll second that.
Okay, I got a motion and a second to extend the usage of the Discovery Pass. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Great discussion, Kim. I appreciate you bringing that forward. Let's move.
I saw the looks.
I know. Let's move on.
Mayor, can I get a motion to extend?
Don't get ahead of me.
Okay.
David, how much time do you need? Where's David?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Oh.
Well, let me think a minute per each of the 65 slides. I guess probably about
You
9.
have 65.
I probably need less than 10 minutes.
You have less than a minute and a half?
Less than 10 minutes.
Less than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We need to
Depending on.
discuss employment
Yeah,
opportunities.
I know.
I was well placed.
I'll be in my office at 7:30, David. So all right, so let's do this. Let's get a motion to extend the meeting to not past 9 PM.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, who was the no? Steve? And Kurt? You can't do 3 on me.
Yeah, you got 3.
All right.
Yeah.
So then, this is not an ordinance, so I can vote, right?
Yeah, it's not an ordinance.
So I can vote?
I will change my vote to aye.
What's that?
I will change my vote to yes.
Okay, we've got to change the vote to yes, ordinance, or that time motion passes.
Daughtry and Ewing. And just to be clear, that was not to go past 9. It didn't necessarily mean we're going to be here till 9. So.
Yeah.
Just not past 9. Okay. That was 5 minutes. We did that. It's a good job. So with that, David, let's go 1 minute per slide.
Where's the slide?
All right. Thank you, Mayor. City Council, David Levitan, Principal Planner. So we just wanted to introduce this development agreement proposal that we had received last month. So just a very brief overview of development agreements. They are type 6 land use application. Unlike most type 6s, they do not require a planning commission recommendation or public hearing. Goes straight to City Council. The intent of development agreements, this one is a little bit different than maybe some of the other ones that you've seen that are more geared towards phasing of development and really kind of mitigation and all of this, all of those types of things. This one is geared towards basically more like a transfer of density. And it's intended to provide some certainty and flexibility in the development process and regulations. And then I have the decision criteria listed there. We don't need to go into those in detail, but generally compliance with the comp plan, applicable development regulations, providing adequate mitigation. So the request that we have received is for what's called the KNA property. It's on the east side of 99th Avenue Southeast, just north of 20th Street Southeast. This is an area of the city that until October of 2024 had been zoned RA12 as part of the concurrent rezones to the 2024 comp plan periodic update. It was rezoned to multifamily residential. With that, there was an increased minimum density that doesn't really allow for single family residential subdivisions that the property owners have already kind of had in the works at the time that the new zoning came into effect. So what they are proposing is they also control another site that received preliminary subdivision approval for a townhouse development last year in 2024. And so they're basically proposing a single family residential development on the what's called the K&A property there on 99th Avenue Southeast in exchange for basically transferring that excess density and excess development capacity over to what's called the SLR property, which is on South Lake Stevens Road, just north of the Tom Thumb and that development area. And so those 38 units of capacity would be transferred over. Basically, the development agreement, which is attachment 1 in the packet, basically outlines the process, the development review process, kind of the minimum densities and maximum densities that would apply on each site. And as noted, that draft development agreement is included in attachment 1. So just going through the agreement a little bit, section 3 outlines the density transfer, section 4 outlines the required land use applications. Section 5 notes basically we want to avoid a situation where the one property is kind of granted the approval for a single family residential development without transferring that over to the receiving property. So making sure that the timing works out, that both projects are going to move forward. If not concurrently, at least largely along a similar timeline. Section 6 notes the vested rights. We talk a little bit about this area. Both of them are within the 20th Street Southeast corridor and within the planned action ordinance, which covers environmental review up to specific development thresholds. We are pretty much out of residential development capacity within this planned action. So at least one of these projects would be subject to project level review. And then exhibits A and B include the legal descriptions, vicinity maps, and conceptual site plans. So the site plan on the north is the K&A property, which is a single family residential development. And then the site plan at the bottom is the SLR property, which would be a multifamily residential development. So staff has done an initial analysis. We continue to review and refine the development agreement. I would note that the applicant's representative, Mr. Ryan Larson, is here as well and has been involved with this process. So staff has made the analysis. A key component of this is not to reduce our overall zone capacity to bring us out of compliance with the Growth Management Act. So we've done that initial analysis and found that looking at it holistically, that this would not be considered a down zone that reduces our ability to specifically meet capacity for housing units potentially affordable at income levels at or below 80% of area median income. It's generally consistent with the approval and decision criteria within the section of the municipal code that deals with development agreements. And the applicant has expressed an interest in moving forward with the development review process for some of the individual land use applications that underlie this development agreement, and has indicated that they're willing to submit a letter requesting that we do kind of concurrent development review as this development agreement is being processed. So that is something that that city staff is on board with and willing to do at the applicant's risk. So next steps is development agreements do require a public hearing before the city council. You're obviously on your break for the next several weeks. So we are proposing to continue work on refining the agreement and bringing it back before you on August 26th of 2025. We'll need to issue public notice. And then we would begin review of some of the associated development review applications in that interim period. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, take any comments, and just generally wanted to get initial council feedback on their level of support or any additional conditions or items that they'd want to make sure is reflected in the development agreement. Thank you.
Hey, David, thank you for that. I have just want to confirm that this proposed project, complies with the city's comprehensive plan and the growth management. Is that accurate?
It does, yeah. We've done that analysis. As long as they basically shift that density over and do a multifamily residential project, we would stay compliant with the GMA.
And how does it comply with the State Environmental Policy Act?
So as I noted there, basically we're down to less than 100 units of capacity within our planned action ordinance. So basically whichever project moves forward first, or say if we got another proposal within the boundaries of the planned action ordinance, it's possible that both of these would need to go through. So it's just a question, we're outlining that they're not automatically guaranteed to be covered under that planned action ordinance. If we run out of development capacity under that ordinance, that they would just, unless they were an exempt project, which neither of these would be at a project level, they would just need to go through individual project level SEPA review. Thank you.
David, excuse me, does this, with the increased density on the South Lake Stevens Road, does this change any level of service as far as traffic impacts go?
Yeah, and so that's something that we would need to do on both projects. They would both be subject to, doing a traffic impact analysis. Specifically, the intersection at South Lake Stevens Road and South Davies Road has been an area of concern. We've had a couple of projects recently, including one that went before the hearing examiner this afternoon for a public hearing where that intersection came up. So given that a number of these projects are controlled by the same applicant, looking at doing kind of a larger traffic analysis or a more comprehensive traffic analysis and then identifying, potential mitigation, potential solutions for some of these problem intersections, that one in particular. And then through the SEPA process, the substantive authority that we have through the SEPA process, assigning a proportional share of any mitigation that's needed to address those level of service deficiencies.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey, David, I see in here that a planning commission public hearing is not required, but are we still planning to get feedback at some point from the planning commission on this?
That's not something that we've typically done for development agreements. And I can't really speak to the legislative history as far as why they're not included with it, but we typically do not include them on development agreements.
And I'll just add one comment. They aren't included because it's a legislative action, and then the implementing actions typically become sort of a quasi judicial action. So they go to the hearing examiner, and that would be the case here, that the hearing examiner would take up the rezone and the hearing examiner would hear the subdivision. So it's really just council's legislative authority determining the zoning standards in this case. And if there's any public mitigation that you want to see in addition to what would be standard. So in this case, planning commission doesn't have a role, an advisory role.
I mean, I'm always interested in feedback from the public, but from what I recall of our last, or maybe it's a couple hearings ago, we essentially function almost in an appellate capacity, if I recall. The hearing examiner makes a decision, and then absent some very specific reasons, we can't really go against that. That's kind of to you and Greg, but that was my recollection. Okay. So at that point, really, any input from the planning commission wouldn't matter. It's did the hearing examiner, fail to meet one of these particular scenarios, and we can say something different. Is that correct? Essentially, unless it falls under one of those exceptions, we have to kind of go with what the examiner finds, regardless of what the public or what the planning commission would say. Okay, thank you.
Anything else for David? Good report, David. You're lucky it didn't go that long. And we are going to move forward on the agenda. We have an executive session coming up. That executive session is about litigation and potential litigation. Do we have action to follow?
potential action to follow. And they've asked for 30 minutes.
Okay, and we're looking at 30 minutes?
Yes.
All right, so let's we'll come back at 8:50. That'll give us a little time to hit the head and come back in.
Okay, so council's going to recess into a confidential session of council per RCW 4230-110 for litigation and potential litigation for 30 minutes, returning at 8:50 with potential action.
All right, so we are back from executive session and can we get a motion?
Yes, I move to authorize the city attorney to file an appeal of the adverse judgment in the sewer district litigation.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do we have some discussion on that motion?
I have a question for our council about the end date for that. So the unification agreement calls for 2033. And what is a timeline for that to be completed?
Well, it's exactly, it isn't exactly an end date. What the agreement provides is that the earliest date that the district would be obligated to transfer the sewer system to the city is in the year 2033, provided that the laws governing assumption that currently exists essentially still exist in 2033. If they do not, then the district would not be obligated to transfer the system to the city absent a vote of the ratepayers.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion?
I guess I'll just say, for me, nothing has changed. The reasons we ended up here and the potential benefits we see of the city are all still the same. And so this is the next step in the process. It's a step that's available to us. And so for me, there's, looking at the cost to the potential benefit, there's no reason not to take it. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm in the exact same boat. 2015, when I started this, it's the same circus.
And I'll just add as the new person on council who I've not been here the whole journey. And I think it's important for the city to work collectively as a team. And I've not seen that. And the sewer district is a huge part of our city. It involves our roads. As they're replacing sewers, they prioritize. We've discussed manhole covers. There's many things that are going on in the city that I don't feel that there's teamwork. And I think it's important that there's teamwork with something as important as our sewer district.
Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great. Motion passes. And with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we want to
All those in
address
favor?
the,
Oh.
we have one less issue.
Motion withdrawn.
One additional issue arose with respect to the Discovery Pass issue. Unfortunately, your special meeting agenda did not list that as an action item. It simply listed it as a discussion item. So the reality is really that you're going to have to vote on that at a meeting where it's properly noticed as such.
So
we can-
at the end of the summer,
So we can put it on a consent. Here's what we'll do. I will give some guidance that Discovery Passes will be accepted, and then we can put it on a consent agenda for our next meeting.
And would that guidance be
Guidance
enforcement by
is
PD?
to allow Discovery.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, move to adjourn.
All those in favor?
So
I
third,
Aye.
fourth,
Meeting
Who
adjourned.
who was my second?
pick one of us. I'll do it.
I think it was.
Caitlin, Hilt.
Kurt.
The agenda to make that an action item, you could have taken the action tonight because it was just a discussion.
Right.
Yes, and because it's a special meeting. Yeah.
Rules regarding special meetings are really strict.